Hi, everyone. It's nice to be speaking with you today. So as you saw, you're here to learn about how to negotiate your salary. This is not an easy topic by far, which is why I think it's great that we discuss it because of the fact that anything with money can be challenging. And then if you're going and asking someone for more money, I know this is really intimidating for some, for a lot, even for me, a career specialist who knows how to do it. So it's more so about just having the key and this, like knowing the skills to be able to do this. So as I was introduced, I'm Susan, and basically I wear a lot of hats. So like many of you, I'm a career changer myself. I started in journalism. I moved into marketing. And then I decided I wanted to do something a little non-traditional and be a freelancer so that I could do a lot of different things that fit what I enjoy and what I wanted to do. So I am an independent consultant in higher education. And so I help universities that are maybe looking to set up international education programs, and I help with that. I'm also a tech producer for different associations that are now holding online conferences. So what my job is of that is doing a lot of back end teaching people how to use virtual conference platforms. And it's similar to this panel where I'm now in the forward facing role where I'm presenting. Normally I'm on the back end and doing the tech needs. And lastly, I am a career specialist at Career Foundry. And this I really feel like is my passion calling because I really find I'm motivated by helping students and sharing what I've learned in the career field about how to negotiate your salary and how to just even look for a job and how to go about this changing your career. So I know that, yeah, negotiation is hard. And I know that it's a difficult topic. And I even saw this when I started being a freelancer, is that if you don't stand up for yourself, if you don't act on your own behalf, no one else is going to do it. Very rarely will a company say, because you're worth it, we're going to give you more money. You're going to have to advocate for yourself. You're going to have to say, this is how much money my target salary is. And if you need to, you justify that. And I'm going to show you how. So I actually want to know your thoughts before we get started. So if you could just let us know in the chat, do you feel confident about negotiating your salary? Why or why not? If you are someone who really doesn't at all feel confident even starting the process, let us know. What is it that makes you nervous about it? Is it just taboo talking about money that's the issue? Is it that you're afraid that the person is going to tell you no? Are you afraid maybe that they won't want to hire you anymore? So let us know, like in the chat, because I'm really curious as to how you feel. And also maybe you do feel confident about negotiating your salary, which is fantastic. And you're just here to kind of pick up some nice tips that maybe can help. So definitely let us know how you're feeling. Okay, so I'm just checking out the chat now. I don't know what I'm worth monetarily. Brand new to the industry. My lack of experience in the field. Yep, this is all really common things. Oh, because you haven't worked in 15 years, they won't want to hire you. You don't know that. Within this 15 years, you could have gained skills that you don't even know about. Right now, I have a student that is a mom who hasn't worked in 12 years. And we realized being a mom, she actually did some volunteer work. And this was actually very helpful for her to focus on these skills that she acquired by volunteering. So it's not impossible. Bit of a taboo thing. Yes, it is always money. And it even depends on cultural. Some countries and some areas feel more comfortable being more upfront about money than others. Haven't done it before, very common too. With practice, it's helpful that things come easier. And lack of experience, yes. In my previous career, I was confident. You can bring that confidence over. You can. This I want to pull out. I work for a nonprofit, and sometimes it feels counterintuitive to ask for a raise here. It is really hard for nonprofits. I've worked for nonprofits before, or education sectors, which are public, and it's the same situation. You maybe cannot ask for money, but you can ask for other things. And so we'll talk about this in the later on about different things that you can ask for if it's not monetarily valued, such as the salary. Yeah, exactly. You can have different experience that is transferable skills that you can bring in. So maybe it's not related directly to UI that you see, but maybe it's really skills that that you would have never even thought about. So I see you have military experience. I was just talking to a student today who has military experience, and he works really well under pressure because of his military experience. So we really focused on that as a transferable skill that you can use and that you can really pick out. Good. Yeah, worried they won't hire me if I negotiate. So this is also something I will mention. If you negotiate, you have to be willing to walk away if they don't accept your minimum requirements. You have to be willing. That's the part about negotiation. It is a tiny bit of a risk, but you can show yourself as being flexible, and we'll go through that as well. And then, yeah, I see a lot where a lot of people are saying, I'm not sure how much I'm actually worth, and then I'm not sure about my value. So, and I don't know how to translate my skills. So this is some stuff that we'll be going through the presentation. And also I want to mention, if you are a Career Foundry student, by all means, you have a career specialist. Every Career Foundry student has a career specialist. Please, please, please meet with your career specialist, ask them for help, and explain your skills, your past skills that you have, and say, I have these skills. Can you help me pick out the ones that are transferable and the ones that I should highlight? So these are the steps of our talk today, so what we're going to be going through, but they're also the steps that you should remember as you are going to go through the negotiation process. Something to keep in mind, the negotiation process doesn't start with the negotiation itself. It starts with research and preparation. So the first thing is decide your minimum, how much you need to survive, to live, and then how much you want. Then you are going to research. So what's the going rate for this role? So you have an idea of what market salary is. And then here's the part where everyone was asking about. You're determining your market worth. Notice that this says in terms of salary. It's really hard as a person to put a number on ourselves. I'm worth 50,000 a year. I'm worth 60,000. No, I'm worth 100. But try to detach it from yourself as a person and see it as this is the money for the skills that you bring for a certain industry and a certain skill set that is in need. And then it's negotiation time after we go through all of those steps. So step one, as I mentioned, is deciding your minimum. This is an activity I actually put together, ironically, from one of these self-help books that I read, and it comes from a book called You Are a Badass. and it's by Jen Sincero. Yeah, Jen Sincero. And she wrote this book. I am not, I actually wasn't a big fan of the book, but I really liked this one part that she mentioned where she said, when you start working and getting your finances in order, you need to decide how much you want. And I thought, wow, that's really great. And when I started freelancing, I realized if I don't have an objective, how can I decide how to go? How many clients do I need? How much money should I be making per month? So I decided, based on this section in this book called You Are a Badass, to try to make an Excel sheet where I could decide what minimum amount of money I needed to live, to pay bills, but also money to be happy. Because yes, you need to pay your rent, you need to pay for groceries and food, but you also need to have money to be able to occasionally go to the cinema and watch a movie with friends. You need to occasionally have money to go to a restaurant for your birthday, or buy birthday gifts or Christmas gifts or whatever holiday events that you need to buy things for. So you need to have a minimum amount of money also to enjoy life. So that's why I say decide your minimum, keeping in mind all of your needs and also your the basics that you need for happiness as well. Really keep this in mind, the word minimum. So don't go crazy and say that you want a 5,000 euro, dollar, whatever your currency may be, budget for travel, and you're 21 starting out as a UI designer. You might not have 5,000 just to spend on vacation and travel starting your first year of work. So that's why I say decide your minimum. You will see in the handout section, not only is there the slides that I'm providing today, I have provided this Excel sheet for you. You won't have time to start now because if you do it correctly, it's very detailed. You're going to put in the amount for all of these things, and you'll see I took a screenshot of one I put together as an example. So you put in the money that you spend for your rent, for your groceries, for your savings. You put together, if you even see, I have a section for pet because I have a cat and I know that she is around 60 euros per month for me if I factor in her food and her sometimes vet bills for checkups or shots that she needs. So it's really thinking, or the Netflix account that you maybe pay for if you're not stealing from someone else, or the Spotify account or any other accounts, because we often forget those little things that we pay for and they add up. So the most detailed you can make this, the better. So when you download this sheet from in the handouts, there'll be my example. And then if you click the second tab, it's empty. And you can put in your numbers and you can see what is the minimum that you need to be happy. Just keep a note that the net salary is what you take home at the end of the day. So this would be after taxes. And the total gross salary, this is actually what you'll need to ask for. Well, you wouldn't ask for this if this is your minimum, but it's remembering that this is the lowest you will go, because you cannot go lower than that. Otherwise, you're not going to be happy. So you will have to look up your country's rate because there's people from all over the world, so I couldn't calculate that for you. But as you see, I did one roughly on taxes in Germany, and that's what I calculated in this one since I live in Berlin. But yeah, so just remember, don't take the net salary and think, oh, okay, that's my minimum, because you still have taxes and that has to come into play. And that's why you see the gross salary, and that's what really needs to be asked for when you include taxes and other deductibles. So yeah, you can find this sheet that you can do for yourself later, and that's in the handouts. So after now you've found your minimum that you know this is the lowest you're willing to go, you're going to go on and research. And I think you cannot see because I didn't put it in correctly because it's supposed to have animation, but you can only see part of it. That's okay. So what I wanted to show you here with all of these stacks of screenshots was that when you start researching, different websites are going to have different numbers. And also what I have here is I've taken examples for UX because most of my students are in UX. And if you see on the screenshot, I have average UX designer salary. And also there's UX spelled out, user experience designer. Keep this in mind if you're in something like UX or UI, that you can get different results by just putting in UX and then actually spelling it out on the same exact website. There's some people who spell it out and there's some people who don't. And the system yet hasn't realized that it's the same. So it's separate. So really make sure that you are checking both. You can also check if you don't find, for example, if you're looking into something really specific under UX, maybe you just look into UX research and you're finding there's not much on UX researcher jobs. You can maybe put in UX, or you can put in some other jobs that are related. So if you feel like for some reason if something's really specific that you're searching for and you're not finding a lot of salary information on it, to put in other relevant things. So I have some students who study UX but are also interested in product management, and it is related. So you might can even search for something like that. So just keep that in mind when you do your search, that you may need to be a little bit broad in your search. So from my searching with all of these screenshots, wow, this is what I got. And it's a huge difference, right? When you're going from 44,000 to 60,000. This is average salary for UX designer in Germany. Well, you did your research. How do you know where to place yourself? I mean, this is a huge number. Are you going to be closer to the lower side? Are you in the middle somewhere? Are you on the higher side? This is where it's kind of tricky because, yeah, you just don't know. So with this part, I say it's then time to determine your market worth. Market worth is, this is what you would be in terms of salary. In terms of salary, what are you worth? What do you bring skill-wise? So there's different things to really focus on when you're doing this. So market worth, different things that you can look at is location. So as you saw before, so I could have a lot of information for general research. I just searched all of Germany for UX salaries. So now you can even break it down and say, okay, what is the pay difference by locations? And you can see this information online. So you can see, all right, in Berlin, how do the salaries relate to Hamburg or to Munich or to Cologne? And you can decide, I'm in Berlin, so it's not always as high as Munich, for example, but maybe it's higher than if I'm in Nuremberg. So you will be able to decide this by location as one of them. Another thing is if you are new and starting out, it's about how many years you have of experience in the field. So for many of us, as we are, we're career changers. So then the question becomes, do I look at myself then as a year one? Maybe you have 5 years professional experience in something else, but you're now at year one in UX. Do you now look at year one experienced UX designers? And for that, I say, no, not typically. What you would then do is look at job adverts in general for UX or whatever your field is, and you would decide how many of these things that these companies are asking for do I fit? If you're feeling like you have enough of the qualifications for what these people are asking in the job advert, because of your transferable skills, you're not going to be considered a junior. You're not going to be considered 1 year of experience only. So think about it in terms of, no, with your transferable skills, maybe you would rank more as a 3rd year UX designer. So keep that in mind with these transferable skills. But you can also look by experience years. Another thing that I mentioned that's underneath, skills that affect how much you get paid, has to do with maybe tools that you know. So underneath you see it says Adobe Illustrator. This was one of the ones that they determined was very popular and well paid for if you're a UX designer that knows Adobe Illustrator. Another one was web design, user research, interaction design. So keeping in mind these skills maybe that you're good at that aren't necessary for this job, but are an added bonus that you can then say, oh, but I have these skills. And then another thing is, often there's 2 different things on job adverts. You have where it says the must-haves. So it says required for the job, and it has a list of things. But then there's also some job adverts that mention nice to haves, or we would like you to have these if possible, or desired skills include. This is the thing that you can pull out to help you with your salary negotiation in determining your worth, is that, for example, this one that we have here, nice to have. If you see fluent in German, those people that are fluent in German, this is going to be very, very beneficial. If you're able to apply for this job, you can say, oh, but I am fluent in German. You can also say that maybe you have qualitative or quantitative use of research in your background. The more nice to have that you have yourself, you can then leverage better in negotiation and say, hey, from your list of nice to haves, I already checked 3 of these requirements, or I already checked 2 of your requirements. So this can help you advocate for having more money, because maybe you're the better candidate out of the people that they've already interviewed because you have these nice to haves. This information, by the way, that I'm sharing with you, these screenshots, this is all information you can find on Glassdoor. That's one of my favorites as far as international information about salaries and skills that are important to have. You can find this as well on Indeed, Glassdoor, some on LinkedIn, but it's more US focused still, LinkedIn. And in Germany, you have Kununu, which is really quite great too. So there's several different websites, and even depending on your own country, you can have country language as well. So now that we've gone through pulling out how to determine your market worth and looking back and deciding, okay, how do we decide the minimum, like how do we decide the market value of a salary, and looking at how do we decide our minimum, what we want. We should now kind of start forming an idea of what our target salary is going to be. I always mention, don't be hard where you have just my salary expectation is 43,000, because companies feel like they can't work with that. So always have a salary range to where you can say, yeah, my range is between 43 and 45. Always give a range, and make sure the range that you give, the minimum number that you set in the range is what you're willing to take, because they might not give you more. So make sure that if they do offer you that number, that you're okay with that. So if you know for sure that you want 45,000, let's go with that, 45,000. Don't ask for 43 to 45. No, start at 45 if you know that's really, really what you want and won't accept less. So make sure that you're clear and honest with yourself about how much really that you want and that you're going to accept. I recommend when you do a salary range, don't do more than 5,000 because that's a big stretch from one number to another number. So if you give a salary range, you can give 45 to 50, or you can even give less, 43 to 45. Just make sure 5,000 difference really is the limit. So now here comes the negotiation part. So I'll be honest with you. I am a career specialist. I know a lot about careers, changing careers. I know a lot about how to get jobs, how to hack the hiring system, because I've been there. I've been in your shoes. I know how hard it is to apply for jobs, to get the salary you want. It's anything surrounding this is really, really challenging. And that's actually why I became a career specialist in the first place, is that I simply wanted to help others so they didn't struggle as much as I did trying to find my first job in the field when I became a professional, and then when I even wanted to change my career. I wanted to make sure that I could, kind of share my knowledge. But despite knowing all of this information, negotiation for me is not easier. And I hate it, really, very much. It goes against my character. I was always raised with this idea that you don't talk about money. You definitely don't ask for more. That seems like you're greedy. It seems like you're not thankful for what they're giving you. It was very taboo and not at all normal. So, like you, I had to learn these skills. And I do think it does become easier when you learn it. It doesn't mean that I like it anymore, but I definitely can do it, and I can do it effectively. So don't feel like I wasn't raised that way, or money is taboo, I'm not used to it, that you cannot do it, because you can do it. You absolutely can do it. You absolutely can learn it. But I can't guarantee that you'll start to like it, because even now I have successfully advocated for myself in full-time roles for more money. I've advocated for myself in roles where they've offered me a job and I said, no, this is too low. And when I tried to negotiate, they said, no, we can't do that. And I had to walk away. So that's also a risk as well. But keep in mind, there's always things that come along, and there are people that do see your value. And especially as a freelancer, when you start as a freelancer, you're constantly having to negotiate in the sense that you're giving your pricing. This is my pricing for this project. To help you with this project, this is my rate. And you're constantly having to say, this is my price, but this is what you're getting with this price. You're getting my skills. You are getting my knowledge on this topic. So you have to remember really your worth in the sense of the skills that you bring, and what you can provide. So with that, since I already told you how much I absolutely hate negotiation, but I still do it, is to ask questions. Ask questions of the employer. So I'm assuming most of you, this will be for a new job that you will be going for, and then asking to negotiate your salary if they propose a salary that you feel is too low. First, start by asking, can I negotiate this offer? Or if you don't even want to use the word negotiate, because I'm kind of iffy even about using the word negotiate, I will mention, can we talk about this? Another thing is, besides the base pay, what are the other benefits that are negotiable? So keep in mind that far as base pay, maybe they have a base pay that's set. You can also ask about bonuses. This is actually what I did for one of my previous roles is they didn't want to increase my salary, but they were happy to give me a bonus of if I reached my yearly objectives that the manager set, they were happy to pay me a 5,000 euro bonus. So they weren't willing to include it within my salary, but they were willing to pay me in a bonus. So you can also advocate for something like this. Also, how did you calculate this number? It's good if you arrive at this and don't sound judgmental, just curious. How'd you calculate this number? Wanting to know how they respond, this will give you an idea of if it's really a hard set number, like HR has determined this, the team has determined this, they're not going to budge on the number, and they'll explain, like, we calculated this because this is how much is allotted for this, or they'll tell you, oh, just on our research for market salaries, we've discovered this number. And then you may realize, oh, this sounds like it's more negotiable, and that's good. Another thing, what is the outlook for salary raises or promotions? This is important to know because maybe they pay a little bit lower salaries, but they give raises every 6 months as standard practice. So if that's the case, you need to know about that. And also promotional opportunities often come with raises. So you need to know if that's a possibility in your future as well. And then a last one that's really interesting to mention is what metrics do you use to evaluate the success of employees? The reason why you ask this is it's not so much important for your first negotiation, but if you do take the job with this company, it's going to help you a lot when you go back to the negotiation table a year or 2 years later, when you say, hey, this is the metric that you do use to evaluate employees, and I've reached all of these, and I've reached all of my objectives, and you're asking then for a raise. So this is always helpful for after the fact. The second part, so once you ask them about, these questions and getting more information, draft a script, prepare. That's one of the most important things I think is really preparing so that you're not stressed, you're very calm, you come across as competent and that you've thought about this and you've done your homework. Why do you feel you deserve a higher salary? So the thing that you should really base this off of is results you've achieved in your previous roles. It doesn't matter if this previous role was in marketing. It doesn't matter if this previous role was that you are a lawyer. It doesn't matter if your previous role was that you were in graphic design or whatever it may be. You have results that can still show that you bring added value. So focus and see what kind of results are like transferable skills that would be interesting to this next company. I know for UX, they really like if you're good at storytelling and if you're good at realizing the process of this, you can easily connect that as your history or background in publishing. You can easily connect this to the fact that you worked in content marketing and you were used to writing pieces and having structure to your work. So there are results that you can show that you've achieved in previous roles with other fields. Also, years of experience in the industry. This is most often used, obviously, when you're asking for a raise or if a salary negotiation for a new job when you've been in the industry for a little while. I know this is a little bit tough for some of you because you're saying, I'm just starting, I'm a career changer. How can I show this? For people in relevant positions, so if you're jumping from graphic design to UI, or you are jumping from something like UI to front-end development, you can easily show that you were kind of in the same industry, you were kind of in the same realm, and so you do have really close industry experience. And that way, if you're in those roles, you can then leverage this years of experience in the industry. Also focus on skills. And it's not always just about hard skills. It can also be about soft skills, because something we're discovering now is that there are a lot of people that are missing key soft skills such as communication or even teamwork. And so some of these can be really important depending on which roles you take. Also, skills can be in the form of tools, like we saw before. Adobe Illustrator is very highly viewed for UX designers. Maybe you have skills in Adobe Illustrator that you can focus on. So in this case, really focus on any skills, but also certifications that you may have that can help to boost yourself in these fields. So yes, maybe you don't have lots of experience, so you can't really leverage that one. But you can mention the Career Foundry certification. You can mention if you did additional courses on Udemy or Coursera on this to learn more about it, or that you are focusing on different certifications you've got elsewhere. Another thing you can pull out, which I think is the most common and easiest for when you're a career changer, is the average market salary. So if you feel like you're being lowballed by a company because it's way lower than the average market salary for what is a similar role in a similar job description, you can bring that to the table. Obviously, don't come at them in an attacking way and say, you're way below market salary limits and these things, but come at it by saying, oh, well, from my research, I found that this is the average market salary. Can you tell me where you've gotten your information from? Or can you tell me how you decided what you've put together? And you can show them and bring to the table what you've found. I mean, during a negotiation, I've brought in and shown, this is what I found on 3 different websites. So I don't think I'm asking for something unfairly. So average market salaries is another good thing to have in your toolbox. And you don't have to use just one of these. Use as many of these as you can, because the more you have to back up and support what you're trying to say, the better. The little picture on the side, this is really interesting. You can also see it when you download the slides if you need a little help. I know some people have a hard time kind of putting together a script and a draft of what they want to say. They find it hard to put into words what they would like to come across. So this is just a little summary that I took from HubSpot that kind of helps you to kind of imagine what you could say to a potential employer when you are talking about salary and when you're talking about negotiation. Just making sure I don't forget anything that I should tell you that's really key and important. Another thing is really practice. Once you decide kind of how you want to structure and say what you want to say, backing up everything with your research, backing up everything with your skills and experience that you bring, and average market salaries and all of this, put together, test what you've written out loud. Really speak it, say it out loud. You can do this either with a friend who can tell you, yeah, you look really weird saying that, or you don't look comfortable at all, or you look tense. Then you know, okay, I need to practice this some more. Or record yourself. Sit in front of your laptop, record yourself, say it, just like you would say it to the person. Play it back, see how you sound. I know me, for example, even now, I'm talking extra fast because I'm a little bit nervous because we have 206 people on this call right now. So I'm like, wow, that's a lot of people. And also it's a bit strange because I don't get to see you guys. So it is weird talking to a computer and not getting to see your faces. So I already know I'm talking fast and yeah, being a little different. So make sure that when you record yourself, you're seeing how you act and how you react, and if you're really prepared enough um, to say this to a potential hiring manager. Most importantly, honestly, really honestly, is you have to be confident. Um, you have to believe in yourself. You really have to believe in yourself. And you have to know that um, you deserve what you're asking for. If you don't believe this and you don't take yourself seriously, they're not going to. No one is just going to say, you're awesome. We want to pay you $100,000. You have to advocate for yourself. No one else is going to do it for you. And be confident, because if you show that you're not confident or that you don't believe that you deserve this or you're not sure you deserve it, it shows. So you have to really realize and do the research and see, hey, I do deserve this. This is really important. And I know a lot of us, most of us, I think, struggle with imposter syndrome. So it's also realizing, try not to let things like this hinder you, like imposter syndrome, like maybe I'm not good enough and maybe I really don't deserve this much. Look at your skills in an unbiased way. Look at the average market salaries. Look and see how you relate to other people in the field. If they're getting paid that much, why shouldn't you get paid that much? Another thing I even mentioned for some people that is important, even if you don't really feel like, even if you're the type of person that you don't really feel like advocating for yourself, advocate for others. If you're not asking for better pay, you are, someone else is going to take lower pay. And we're going to continue with this cycle of paying people maybe not what they're worth. So keep in mind, you by asking for a fair salary for what you're worth in terms of skills is only fair, and it's putting employers on the right track of being fair and being on average with the rest of society. Another thing, flexibility is key. So even if they cannot pay you in salary, because some can't, maybe you're willing to do something else. I have a student who started working at a startup, and the startup said, hey, we're a startup. We're a real startup. We don't have a lot of money. You can say that you're willing to accept something else. So what she decided is she said she was willing to take stocks. So they gave her stocks in this new startup company. So if it's someone that doesn't have a lot of money, a new company, you can ask for stocks if you want. Another thing, you can ask for more vacation time. I liked this if they didn't want to pay a lot, because I love having vacation time and more time off. So you can ask just for more time off if they can't pay you as much as you'd like. You can ask for 10 extra days or whatever it may be. You can also ask for, if you're in the US, for more compensation or more assistance when it comes to 401k matching, or more than matching, or a different percentage. You can ask for, if it's a new job in a new city, you can ask for a one-time payment of extra money for relocation funds. You can ask for it to be written in your contract that you automatically get a raise after 6 months. So there's a lot of different ways to be compensated just in the, there's a lot in the, that you can kind of negotiate in terms of not just salary as in money, like every year money or every month money. You can also ask for different things and still be happy as well. Also, if you're unsure about the offer when you're negotiating, do not feel pressured to give them an answer right away. Do do not make a rash decision. It's really normal to ask for 24 hours to think it over. It is really 100% okay. So make sure that you are not quick to accept something that you're not sure if it's really good for you or if you would really be happy with it. Another thing, get your salary offer in writing. This is just great to cover yourself in case you're hired and the design team tells you one thing and then you come in and HR says, oh, no, that's not what we discussed. It's just better to make sure you get the offer in writing. And the last thing, like I mentioned before, not all salary negotiations go well. Be prepared to walk away if your minimum is not met, because negotiation at the end of the day depends on the company. And if companies see your value, a lot of them are willing to pay. And they say, oh yeah, you're right. We're willing to pay because we want you. But not all companies see it like that. And they say, no, if she doesn't want to come and work here for this amount of money, we'll find someone else that is willing to work for this amount. So you have to decide really what your minimum is. And that's why I give you the first assignment with the Excel sheet, because you have to decide what you're okay with. Because the last thing you want to do is go through the job searching process again in 6 months because you're really unhappy with how much you're getting paid in your new role. So I see it as really is better to be unemployed just a little bit longer and really find a company that is going to pay you what you deserve and what you want, so that you can stay there way longer than 6 months. So with that, I can take a breath, and I'm actually really, really excited to hear your questions. And I know that we have probably quite a bit of questions, yeah?
Yes, quite a few. I don't think you'll be able to take a breath because we have quite a few. So let's get started. Let me just pull this here. So question number one, coming from one of our mentors, actually. Do you think companies will soon start being more transparent about their salary ranges for each position?
Oh, I hope so. Like, I would love this. I'm very much pro this. And I know some companies are starting, but I think it's going to take a little longer, just in the sense that it is still taboo. It's still new, but I'm hoping even with the change of we're moving fast into a new society, just with everything going remote and more companies going remote, I hope people start also thinking in a different way regarding this, and we see more transparency with this as well.
Great. And coming back to the step 4 and negotiations, how do you estimate the value of soft skills? I guess like communication skills or organizational skills.
So something like this, you can see what the company is focused on. So if the company is focused on something where storytelling is really important, this is how you would know this is a good focus. So you can leverage on the fact that their mission statement, their values of the company focuses on good communication. And you can leverage that and say, I know your company value is this. I know that you speak a lot about this in your company. I know in the job advert, you mentioned this is highly important. I have these communication skills, and this is my experience with communication. This is my background, and this is, just making sure that you can prove your soft skills as well.
I love that. How can I be sure not to be underpaid as a woman? We know from our surveys that it's a big issue.
Thank you for mentioning. Yeah, thank you for mentioning this. I wanted to mention it during the talk, and I saw we were running out of time, so I was cutting. This is honestly really important. Us as women we're really underpaid, and we undervalue ourselves. When I started freelancing, I had a woman that I knew who told me, your pricing, double it. And I was like, huh, what? No, that's too much. No one's going to hire me. And she goes, it's too low, double it. And they often say that women, you really undervalue yourself. So as a woman, to make sure you're not being underpaid, really doing a lot of research, looking at this at the market salary, the market rates, and seeing how this relates, looking at your skills and what you bring, talking to other women. Believe it or not, other women are more open about salary than you think they are, because they want to make sure that we're not all being underpaid. Asking other women in the field what they're getting paid, then asking men what they're getting paid. That's why I recommend also finding yourself a mentor in the field. And if you can get 2 mentors, that's great, because then you can ask them, hey, come at it a nice way, because not everyone's open. Hey, do you mind telling me like what kind of what your salary is, or can you tell me what kind of salary I should ask for starting out in this role? But yeah, please do your homework and ask others, because yeah, as a woman, and also don't set your minimum that you write in your Excel sheet, because women tend to underestimate things. The minimum you set in your Excel sheet, don't give that as your minimum for your target salary. Add 2,000 more. Okay.
Double it. What is your view on using another company's offer as a leverage for salary negotiation at your preferred company?
I only recommend this as a negotiation tactic if you're already in a company. Just because of the fact that if it's tricky, if you haven't started working there yet and you come at them and you say, oh, well, I have another offer and they're paying me this much, like, aren't you going to match it, or are you going to try to match it? They can see this as aggressive. And because they don't know you yet and they don't know your work ethic, it's going to be way harder to negotiate. And you might just upset them. So you can, but you should be really sure about your negotiation skills. I really recommend that only for if you're already in that company, you know you're good, and you know they'll want to keep you, or you think they'll want to keep you. Then you say, hey, I got another job offer and this is what they're willing to pay me, but I'd like to stay here and continue working. Can we discuss about my salary? And some companies will be willing to pay you that and others won't.
Mm-hmm. And from the recruiter's position, in a situation where they have two great candidates, will they go for the person who is asking for less money, or just to save money on the budget? What are the...
Honestly, that really depends on the company. It really, really depends on the company. So companies that are budget strapped, so things like startups maybe will, but no, really not always. It sometimes is more so about what you bring. If you bring more of these nice to have, these preferred skills, these added bonuses, they're willing to pay more because they see you as someone who can do more for their company. And if you're not doing more, then they have to find an outside agency to do this extra work, or that they have to hire a completely new person to do some of this work, either part-time or full-time. Whereas if you already have those skills, you can do both jobs, or you can do this and you can add something else when they need it. So sometimes they see it as better value to just hire someone that's more money, but you're covering a lot of the skills they need in that role.
Great. And from your experience, how does the conversation about money come up in an interview? Should the interviewee suggest the topic or wait for the employer to bring it on?
So I recommend that you do not, as an interviewee, bring up the topic. It's still a little bit taboo. Unfortunately, I wish we were at the stage where on the job advert, it would say the salary range, so that you would already know and decide, okay, this is too low for me. I'm not going to waste my time and apply, but we're not at that stage yet. But with this, you just need to wait for them to bring it up, but you should be prepared already. If you get an interview with a company, even before you go for the first interview, you should already know how much money target salary wise, how much money you would like for this job, because money, depending on the company, it can come up in the first interview or it can come up in the third interview, and you don't know, but you have to be prepared. So even for every first interview I have, I've already done all of this research and I've already decided my value to this company based on looking at their job advert and saying, wow, I have a lot of their nice to haves on their list. I should increase my target salary by an extra 2,000. So making sure you have this even before the first, just so you're ready to start the topic. Also, what I recommend when they ask you about salary, you can come back at them before you answer. And you can say, oh, well, I'm actually curious, what is your target range for this role? Because every company has to have a target range, because they've already talked to HR about how, if they had money in their budget to hire a new person. So they do have a salary range already in their mind. Whether or not they're willing to tell you, that's a different story. But I always push and ask them first. And that way you already know their target salary, because some of them will respond and they say, oh yeah, our target salary is 35 to 40 for this role. Mm-hmm. And then that's when you can tell them, oh, I was thinking more about 38 to 42. And so that gives you an idea of how to position yourself as well, depending on what they say was their target salary. If they don't answer with their target salary, you can then just give them the target range that you've decided for yourself.
And in that interview scenario, when being asked for salary expectations, should I right away justify my expectations or simply state the desired salary?
So I say don't focus too much on justifying, just because I don't want you to come across as someone who's not confident about what they're asking for. So I would say you can just say simply that with my skills, I believe this is an appropriate salary range. But yeah, you don't have to go into detail. I usually say this justification comes during negotiation, because then if they say, oh, that's too much for us, we were only thinking about this much, that's when you can come and give the justifications as, I have this skill, I have previous experience in this, and that's when you show yourself. So yeah, just start by saying that you think this is an appropriate salary range for what you bring, and then you can just go into it like that.
And once you get that dream job, how often on average do you negotiate? Once a year? Is it every 6 months? What's appropriate?
So this is good to kind of try to do a little bit of research to find out, even before you get in the company. Something like Glassdoor can sometimes tell you about how often people get raises in this company. So you can kind of see your company culture. For example, my partner previously worked at a company that their set thing was every 6 months you were up for a raise. If you met all your goals and if you did well, there were different levels of it for every 6 months. Typically, the most common I hear is 1 year that there's a review, and then depending on where you are, there's other countries that only look at it every few years, and it's only after you've justified that you've brought a lot to them. So it really depends, and I would say definitely do your research, do your homework, ask people that have been there for a while that you trust, like, hey, how does this work here? And you can even ask HR, but in a really not pushy way, but you can just ask them like, oh, how do raises and promotions and these kinds of things work here at your company?
And here we have a question more about skills and applying for that first job. In case of a job application with entry positions, but the requirements ask for 3+ years of experience, how can we negotiate negotiate against that main point?
Oh yeah. So with the things that say something like 3+ years, first I say when you're starting out, depending on the skills that you bring, and if those apply, if you have a lot of skills that still apply to the job advert, don't worry about the requirement for 3+ years. As far as negotiation, if you want to negotiate and you don't have 3 years, yes, you will miss out on being able to negotiate that you have more experience, but you can focus really on the fact that you bring relevant skills to this role. So maybe you're not yet so integrated into UX, but maybe you've done something similar, or you have really relevant other skills that can be applied to this job. So I would focus more on the other ones, such as average market salaries, to make sure you're being paid fairly by the market standards, and then focusing on the other types of skills you bring, and also if you have any certifications and something else that they find interesting.
Great, and I think we maybe have time for another couple of questions.
Yeah, shoot
them. If you don't have all the experience with respect to the job required, should you still apply?
Yes. So this is also another problem when it comes to gender. Women often, if they don't reach almost every single checkpoint that's on a job advert, they'll say, oh, I don't qualify, I'm not going to apply. Men seem to apparently be super confident in themselves, and they have maybe half the requirements, and they say, I'll apply, I'll see what happens. So you end up having where companies have really a difference between a lot of men applying more than women. So typically, there's also a lot of men who are getting jobs simply because there's more of them applying. So I always say, especially to women, I don't know if this is a woman who asked this, but especially women, if you have half of the requirements that are listed on this, apply. Because you would be surprised. People seem to think that what companies ask for, it's written in stone. Sometimes you have someone from HR who knows nothing about UX, who knows nothing about UI, who just said, this seems like a good skill to add. We're just going to add this on because the more skills, the better. So sometimes it's not even a need. It's just they thought maybe it would be good for this person to have. So by all means, please apply if you have half the requirements.
And how do you make sure that the company offers the higher bid instead of completely rejecting your offer or going for the lower bid that you just put in the range?
But that's exactly why I said if you give a salary range, make sure that you don't put a minimum that you're not willing to go home with. Because if you give them if you give them 35 to 40 and they say, okay, we're going to pay you 35, you have to be willing to be okay with that and accept that because that's what you've given them. If you really want, if you know your minimum is more than that, you need to set your minimum as your real minimum for your target range, or at least set it to 1,000 above. But you, at the end of the day, you have to be okay to accept. That's why I said too, for someone who's really not okay with going home, if they want 40 and going home with 35, that's why I mentioned don't make a 5,000 difference. You can say your range is smaller, it's a 3,000 difference, or even a 2,000 difference. But it still should be a range so that they feel like you're flexible. And I feel like a 3,000 is a good in between. And I know that some of these are coming up about salary. Keep in mind too, really about, it's not all about salary. You can also negotiate bonuses. You can negotiate stocks. You can negotiate more vacation time. There's other things to negotiate, or transportation costs. Maybe they help pay for your car, a company car. Maybe they can help pay for your public transportation. So just keep all of these options in mind.
Great. And with that, I would like to thank you, Suzanne, for presenting. This was really insightful and fantastic. And to all of you for attending. If we didn't get to your question, I already spoke to Suzanne before. You can find her on LinkedIn, and she will get back to you as soon as possible. Tomorrow I'll be sending out an email with the recording, so you can rewatch it with all the handouts and all the resources that Suzanne mentioned, and I'll also link to Suzanne's LinkedIn profile, so you'll have a chance to ask all these questions. So once again, good morning, good evening, wherever you're dialing in from. Yeah, and see you soon.